Every night, I dream the same dream. And then...
So first of all, Strange he likes to fix things. He's a perfectionist.
Yeah.
He might have made some mistakes along the way, or was there no other way? Does he, going into this film, have regrets, do you think, about some of the decisions he's made?
Where do you want me to start with all of that?
Yes.
I would say no regrets. No, I think he's a character who's learning, despite his arrogance and his willfulness and ego. I think he can bend, he can adapt. And that's one of the joys of playing him. You get to have some pathos and some, moments where he's properly schooled and taught that what he's done isn't necessarily the right or best thing to have done. And this is another step in that evolution. I think in Spider-Man No Way Home, we saw a man who we've got to know as someone who's transferred his ego and his skills from being a neurosurgeon to being a sorcerer who, while not being a supreme sorcerer in this version, is someone who's omnipotent and omniscient and just everything. And that's kind of held in check a little bit in that film. He all the mistakes he makes, though, are very human and relatable, I feel. Like he is someone who cares for a fellow foot soldier in the first instance with Peter, then sees him as a kid who's lost his guardian and his way in his own life and wants to give him something that can help him get back, and does it in a very cavalier, showing off way, and then it gets interrupted and everything that happens in that film happens. And then he becomes a sort of bad parent, chasing him around the city, asking for the toy back. And shit, it really hits the fan. So, but it's human.
That's a great synopsis for the film.
He cares. Shit hits the fan. Yeah, that'll do. That should be the tagline. Basically, he cares. He does care. And he cares for people outside of his own existence. Yeah. And we all make mistakes when that happens.
Yeah. And Sam's talked about, and it's been confirmed, I'm not trying to get spoilers, but that you play at least one version of Strange in this film, whether it's a dream, whatever it is. For you as an actor, do you approach that character as a totally new character, or do you springboard off what's existed in?
Look, I think if it's still me playing Strange, however different the circumstances, it's important to understand that there's some kind of origin point that's the same. So that's why it's me as the same actor. That's why I think it feeds into our understanding of our Strange. You see these other characters in whatever moments you see them having made choices that result in different outcomes. And I think that's what the multiverse as a storyline is great at reflecting of our own lives, the sort of multiple selves we contain, the different roles we are always playing in our lives, and how our choices affect the outcomes of our lives.
Was there one particular aspect of either going deeper into the Strange character we know, or something that you got to play that was fresh, that was particularly exciting for you, that you can talk about?
All of it, I would say, because, it's great to have my own outing, although it's a very crowded marquee. There's a lot of story and a lot of characters in this. It's not all about Strange.
Your name is on the title.
Yeah. But I think it's what am I saying? Yeah, no, you learn a lot about him through what he goes through, but also seeing these other versions of him. And I think that evolution is important. It keeps people engaged with him. And that's what's rich about him as a character. Yeah, he's snarky and arrogant, and we kind of vicariously enjoy that sometimes. But, he's also not down to size, and he's also taught. He also is evolving.
This is kind of a two-parter, but how long would you want to play? You've sort of talked about how this is the tip of the iceberg. It's only scratching the surface because the multiverse is blowing everything
just opening up.
How long would you want to play this character for in other iterations?
I don't really want to put a time on it, but I don't feel like I'm in the middle or the beginning. I just don't know. I'm having a really good time. I'm having a really good time being your Doctor Strange, and I enjoy it. And I left this film going, oh yeah, I can't wait for fans to see where he's got to here, but I'm even more excited as to where he goes next. So, I'm still game for it if you guys are.
Would a series be interesting? Do you think it would be?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's nice to have the kind of work I do outside of this. And I think a series, obviously, as a time commitment, is almost as big as a movie.
Yeah.
And when it's your series, you're, as Lizzie will tell you, on all the time.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Sam.
Yeah.
I know you were a fan of the original Spider-Man films. What aspect of those films did you love? And what sort of nuggets that are very Spider-Man-esque did you, sitting across from him, I know you've done a funny impression of him as a director, sort of like what sort of freshness does he bring to this story?
I mean, fans of his of old will love this. There's a lot of nostalgic Sam Raimi touches in his delivery of moments of horror, the kind of schlock horror element of it. the fun he has with gore in inverted commas. Who knows what that means in the multiverse? You'll find out. And also jump scares and all the other traits of horror movie making, and also the darker tone as well. And he handled that, as well as the complexity of the characters and the situations, with real clarity and ease. But the thing I learned most about him was he's just so amenable. He's such a great collaborator, brilliant first audience. He always wants you to try things and skew the script and come up with new ideas. And he's so humble. I mean, to a fault sometimes. He had to kind of remind himself that he was directing a big film.
I thought you were going to do an impression.
Oh, God. Well, you set me up for a fool, but, he's like,
I'm going to, so in the thing, strange is here. And then this bus comes from, and you cut it like a bus thrower, like, and then it falls into two halves.
I feel so cruel doing impersonation, Sam. It's not fair.
In another multiverse story, you're playing him.
I'm playing him. All right, yeah. And he plays Strange. I'd love to see his Strange.
I think we all.
I have actually seen his Strange. I mean, that's the thing. He's so animated, and he will give you a whole breakdown of the scene, and he just can't help but sort of do it and play it out, all the parts. He runs from one place, runs back to the other, But he's a dear man. I'm very, very fond of him, and I think he's handled everything that's been thrown at him coming into this franchise late, this particular moment of it, and in the MCU so brilliantly. And it's very much a Sam Raimi film.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. You're welcome. It was fun.
Wanda.
I knew sooner or later you'd show up. I made mistakes, and people were hurt.
I'm not here to talk about Westview.
Then what are you here for?
I need your help.
With what?
What do you know about the multiverse?
First of all, WandaVision ruined me emotionally. The last episode ruined me. I'm not over it yet. We've seen the first 20 minutes of this film. I'm wondering if you could kind of describe your dynamic sort of on set with Benedict Cumberbatch versus some of the other characters in the MCU. He's actually very funny. Like in my interview with him, he was doing Sam Raimi impersonations. So what do you bring out from each other as collaborators that's maybe different? And also the Strange and Wanda dynamic, because they're two possibly the most powerful superheroes in this universe.
Well, I think the way we really cared about trying to figure out how to carve these stories or this film and continue why people love these characters and also advance them in some way. And that was very important to both of us. So we actually had like a very heady analytical experience together as well. But he does have such a kindness and a goofiness to him that I think I'm seeing more of doing press actually than while shooting, which has been a joy for me to get to travel with him and see that part of his personality a bit more. Because it was definitely felt like we were filming during lockdowns. There was like such a grind to making this film and to trying to get it right. Even though there were, moments of levity and more than anything, I just really find him to be a very accomplished and incredible actor. To get to be a part of his process like that and to share the screen with him was a joy for me.
So how would you describe that Strange Wanda dynamic? I know it probably takes on different iterations in this film, but whatever you can tell me.
Well, I think of them as people who actually understand one another very well. And they just happen to be kind of in different places of their own personal growth and maybe have slightly different perspectives.
Got it. I like it. Actually, that's a wonderful answer. It's interesting. Very intriguing. And again, as much as you can sort of tell me, I know Kevin and Sam have said, and it's okay to say it, that both you and Doctor Strange are playing different iterations of your character in this film. Can you tell me which one was sort of the most interesting or fun for you to explore as an actress? I
mean, I think the thing that I had the most fun with was playing this universe's Scarlet Witch and kind of the evolution that we have created for her. It was really fun, actually. I think I preferred it by far because there's a lot more to play, and a woman who I spent so much time with in this universe. And so it was fun to continue and advance her on her journey.
Speaking of your journey, I know I asked Benedict the question. He says he's really enjoying being in this universe and wants to continue it. Tom Holland has said he will play Spider-Man for the next 20 years. How long do you think you want to play Wanda for? And are you interested in sort of carving out maybe her own film, or would you like to do a season 2 of WandaVision? What is sort of the more better way for you to flesh out the character?
I really thought of this film as a story that was told it ends the way it's supposed to end. And I'm very curious what the fans want next as well, because I don't have any ideas. And so I think that would be helpful to get some ideas from them. My whole thing, without having like these big picture deals or whatever to, go 9 times or whatever it is that as long as, and this is what happened with WandaVision, as long as there's a good story to tell, I'll be there. But I don't think it's fun for the fans for us to just like show up and not have anything interesting to share or to tell or to explore. And so for me, it's always about the story. If there's a good idea, I'm happy to play her. I also think her being old will actually be kind of amazing. In the comics, her power kind of deteriorates her and ages her in a way in some of the comics. And I do think of that as being kind of amazing. And I kind of imagine myself one day with like prosthetics and silver hair and like playing her as this like older wise woman. And so I do have this kind of this dream of aging her quite a bit. So maybe I'll play her when I am that age, or maybe,
I love that.
Maybe I just really think she's ancient in her, like the myth of the Scarlet Witch is this ancient myth. And so that's something that I kind of adore about, a potential future that I'm just kind of throwing out, and I don't really know where it would go. But.
I know you're not on social media, so I'm wondering how you get the fan reaction. If people tell you that you're pretty much trending every day because the fans love you so much, if you get that feedback, and if not to be cheesy, if you have a message for your fans via us that you'd like to give them.
Yeah, I really want them to enjoy this film, be open to the ride, and I really want their ideas. I feel like when we were filming, when WandaVision came out and these weekly guesses were happening that I would hear from doing interviews mostly, so I hear them, I thought, oh God, I wish we knew about the multiverse then, but like we didn't. And so there are things like that I just feel like the fans are so on top of these characters and the MCU as a whole that I just really want them to throw out what they want next, like desperately. Because I do think there are nuggets that the fans create that is something that I don't necessarily think of.
You okay?
So, legend has it, 20 years ago, when you were pitching yourself to direct the first Spider-Man movie, you basically said it's a soap opera about a boy and a girl. You didn't focus in on the action. How would you describe this movie in one sentence?
This is Doctor Strange having a chance to look himself in the mirror.
A cracked mirror?
A funhouse mirror.
Yeah, he called it something else. He called it a expletive show.
It's got a lot in this movie.
There's a lot. There was a lot for you to tackle in this movie.
Yes.
It's been a long time since you've directed a superhero film. The first 3, Kevin Feige was an assistant on those films. Now he's the head honcho. Did he kind of give you the keys to the kingdom in terms of creating these new multiverse, these universes we never seen before? Was it a clean slate for you? And how has the superhero genre changed since the last time you directed a film?
Well, Kevin doesn't give anybody the keys to the kingdom. He's very particular about making sure that the integrity of the characters stay intact. If you do that, though, he supports you 1,000 different ways from Sunday. And it's a pleasure working with him because it's very rare to have a company who really is trying more than anything to please the fans.
Yeah.
Not not the shareholders.
So how are things changed for you? Like what sort of technology or sort of elements were really fun for you that you didn't get to explore in past films because it didn't exist?
Well, a lot of things were much easier. The technology of creating the CGI creations, the process of working with the teams and the way we could send media back and forth. But primarily the job is the same. It wasn't tremendously easier or different. And the job is create or identify within the character the human qualities that the audience can connect with, present them on screen and make the drama have something to do with that so that the audience can watch a character maybe that's damaged, come across conflict and grow and heal, or someone who is, like in the case of Spider-Man, wrestling with the understanding of responsibility, becoming a responsible young man. So it's about the core job of directing hasn't changed. It's really about connecting with the audience.
I know that you loved Spider-Man for the fact that you felt you could identify with the character, maybe growing up. How do you identify with Strange? What sort of kinship do you feel with that character?
Well, now that I'm a little older, I can identify with his problems. He's got a very big ego, this guy, and he thinks that only he can do it right. And he doesn't want to share the job or trust anyone but himself. He's probably a very insecure person inside and has built up this ego as a shell to cover that insecurity. But as a director, I struggle with my ego too. You know, I count on my ego to tell the story. Directors read a book or a screenplay, and their job is to tell the crew and the actors exactly how they see it. I mean, talk about an egotistical job. It's like, who cares how you see it? What about how I see it? But that is the job of the director, to explain to the set decorator precisely who the character is so that they can use their artistic talent to put up the right poster on the wall for the kid and the right knick-knack near the bed that would be important to that character that you describe. So the director's vision really guides everything.
Did you go to multiverse camp for this? How much studying did you have to do? And are there any rules in the multiverse?
I didn't know a thing about the multiverse. I did have to go to camp a little bit. Marvel explained where we had been in the multiverse. They referenced comic books in the past, many of which I had read as a young man. And they pointed out storylines from the pre-existing Avengers movies or WandaVision. And I had to be aware of all these things, along with the writer, Michael Waldron, in bringing all these storylines and the concept of the multiverse forward.
You have a lot of different sort of duos and dynamics in this film. There's sort of a new duo and sort of dynamic between Strange and Wanda that we haven't fully explored before. You also have America. She's a little bit defiant from what I've heard against Strange. She's not super impressed.
Right.
How important is it, and how on a storytelling level do you make sure you get those relationships right and make sure they're all different within the film?
That's really the most important job that you described. The audience has had these experiences with these characters, and they know them. They know them. They've seen them. They've talked about them. They've written about them, and they've waited for the next installment. So my job, more than creating something from whole cloth, was in understanding who they were, learning from the actors, taking in Marvel's and the Avengers storylines moving forward,
right,
and telling the next installment that is a logical progression from where all the fans have been.
I know we all had an emotional reaction to watching Tobey walk through the portal in Spider-Man No Way Home. What was your personal reaction? What emotion did you feel, maybe as a dad figure? And what aspect of where he's at right now? I know you talked to my colleague and said you'd be interested in exploring a Spider-Man film. What aspect of where he's at now would be interesting for you to explore in a future film?
Well, my reaction to seeing No Way Home was very emotional. It was really great storytelling, and I thought, oh my gosh, there's Tobey again. There's Willem Dafoe. It was very fun, not just because I really liked the characters, but we spent many years together crafting those movies. So it was kind of like a reunion.
And moving forward, was there an element of sort of, I love the fact that he's a little bit older. He's a little bit sort of like, you feel the pain of what he's been through. What part of that would you love to explore, of that aspect of where he's at now?
I haven't thought about it at all. I don't actually have a plan to make a Spider-Man 4 right now. I think Columbia is doing really well with their Spider-Man movies. They probably don't want to go back and make a Spider-Man 4. But as a director that worked on a screenplay for some time, it's always hard to get that out of your head, the baby that you never had.
So how bonkers is this movie going to get?
It gets kind of crazy. It's like a journey not into one universe or two, but on and on you go. And the multiverse is a frightening place only because it's so similar. Many of the universes are very similar to ours. And just the slightest variation can show you the wrong path that you may take in life or the path that you should have taken when you meet these altered versions of yourself.
Easter eggs that fans can look out for, maybe a scene. I don't know if you want to point out to any specific Easter eggs or a specific scene that people should look out for when they watch this film to find one.
Yeah, I think there's a nice scene of America Chavez bringing Doctor Strange through the multiverse. That's a lot of fun, and that's something the audience could look forward to, I think.
First of all, congratulations. I heard Kevin Feige has renamed the MCU the WCU, the Wong Cinematic Universe.
Yeah,
so
thank
congratulations.
you. Yeah, there's nothing we can do about it. Yeah, we just have to.
You've been in every Marvel movie now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Forward.
Yeah, pretty much.
Feels good?
Feels pretty good, yeah.
And congratulations to you.
Yes.
They've shown us 20 minutes of this film. It kicks off with Gargantos, a mega scene. What was the most bonkers thing you got to do? Obviously, there's no animatronic thing that big.
Well, of course, our bit. You
Yeah.
know, I was pretty crazy. We did like this ratchet kind of like pullback wire thing. I don't even know what it's called, but it was really cool because I actually, this is my first time doing like wire work.
Wow.
So it's kind of scary, but we got to do a little bit and it was cool.
No, it was great.
And then you're like,
well, on my lasso
yeah.
bit, swinging you down. I know.
it's so cool.
I mean,
long moment.
Oh, thank you. I mean, but like, you know, full credit to Xochitl. I mean, we've got to remember. I mean, she was 14 at the time.
Yeah.
You know, helming this movie, and yeah, she's done a fantastic job.
That's amazing. It's amazing. It makes me feel like I haven't done enough with my life. Well, let's talk a little bit about that. I know that Elizabeth gave you some advice maybe about owning it because you kind of taught Stephen a little bit. You're not too impressed with the new generation. She talked to you about owning it. You also got maybe a DM from Simu Liu. So can you talk about sort of how the members of the MCU sort of empowered you to sort of owning it and that relationship with Strange and sort of like holding your own against him?
Well, it's pretty crazy because, I mean, I grew up with the MCU, you know? So it's definitely been like, I used to have action figures of all these people in the poster. I mean, it's just pretty crazy that now I'm like, you know,
did you have
friends with
his?
them.
No,
Well,
we didn't have one yet, did
He
I?
didn't have one. And now he does. You
Now I
have
do.
your first action
Yeah.
figure. We both have our first action figures. It's pretty crazy.
Amazing. And for you, what kind of Sorcerer Supreme do you think you've been so far to Stephen compared to the previous? Like what do you think you've taught Stephen so far?
Well, it's been a great character progression, you know,
Yeah.
from this no-nonsense librarian to, you know, this no-nonsense Sorcerer Supreme. And, he's there to sort of quell this egoic Doctor Strange, this wayward Doctor Strange. And, they're very chalk and cheese. You know, they both need each other, though, definitely.
Yeah.
Where do you both see, like if you kind of have your dream, I don't know how much conversation you had with Kevin or the team at Marvel, sort of the arc of where America could go in this franchise. And like, would you be interested in a TV series or standalone films? How would you feel about it?
All of the above, yeah.
I know. I'm like, I'll anything.
Yeah.
I'm like open to anything.
Look, I mean, it's again. I mean, I think back to 6 years ago and the foundations that I were built for my character. You know, this is only the beginning for you, and as we know, it's always a need to know basis. So we're just looking forward to see what unfolds.
Okay, so about another universe, what would be the dream matchup for either of you? Which character would you love to meet up with?
I mean, I would love to still have Wong.
Come on, go on, and someone else, and someone else.
Fine, I'll
All
pick
right,
someone
go on.
else.
Okay, if he wasn't here.
I don't think I could handle that. I'd be empty. No, but maybe Loki. I think that could be a fun
Okay, cool.
pairing. I think that would be fun to watch.
Okay.
Let's hang out with the Fantastic Four or the
I like
X-Men.
that.
Yeah,
I like that.
one can go wherever he wants with his portal,
Yeah.
can't he? Yeah, so.
He can, yes. So what was sort of like there's been so many incredible moments in the MCU, and as audience members, sometimes you guys don't get to see the film ahead of time. Yeah. What has been the moment throughout the MCU that has hit you the hardest? Because I think maybe for a fan, you experience it differently than you because you sort of know what's going to happen. Yeah. But what's the moment been for you that's been sort of like this stand out?
The funeral scene, I think, you know, his passing, Tony's passing and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is hard because I wasn't part of it.
Oh, yeah.
But as a fan, like before
but
you
yeah,
joined.
as a fan, I mean, especially the funeral scene. Oh, but like the last in Endgame. Oh, there's so many. WandaVision, like just WandaVision, period. I can't choose. There's too many like.
There's always great moments, aren't there, in all of these films? In No Way Home, but I mean, definitely like we have like things that have happened in WandaVision. Sure. Yeah, totally. Like things that have happened with WandaVision and No Way Home. Everything's all converging to our movie.
This movie.
To this grand crescendo.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty crazy.
Can't wait to see the film.
Your desecration of reality will not go unpunished. It was the only way. But I never meant for any of this to happen.
Did you create a backstory for yourself from the events of Doctor Strange? Was Christine snapped? Like, did you talk to anybody at Marvel about that? Because she's at a very different place when we pick up with her now.
Right. Well, there was a lot of conversation about how different she would be. We wanted it to be jarring, but not so much that you didn't long for them to find the same relationship or a similar one that they had before as other people. So it was a tricky little dance, and but you want it to be a little bit unnerving.
Yeah.
That you're like, do I know this person? Or, oh no, wait, I don't know this person at all. That's kind of the fun of it.
So for you as an actress, did you envision that you were dusted, or were you there for the years that people were sort of in the snap?
I was not. I was very much alive.
Well, I know you talked in the last film about, there was a scene on set where you were working with Benedict, and I think it was a crying scene, and you said you cried all day, and you talked about what a great scene partner he was. There's sort of like when you meet him at the wedding, and this is not a spoiler, but you are getting married in this one. When you meet him at the wedding, there's such a tangible chemistry between the two of you. How did you create it on this time around, and what was that moment like for Christine? How does she feel now? Because I feel like this is the love of my life, but he's not practical.
Yes. I mean, weddings there's just something so heightened about them. Like everyone's kind of on the verge of tears or laughter, or everyone's not quite themselves. You're seeing each other in these epic outfits. Everybody looks great. I mean, there's just something about a wedding, isn't there? And alcohol's flowing, and I think it just lends itself to this specialness and last chances and reflection and regret, and so I think it makes for a very charged scene.
Yeah.
And then I think we just have such a history together. That's just been built in from day one with the previous film. So you just kind of have that in there.
Yeah. I don't know what's happening in this film because we've obviously only seen 20 minutes, but I know they've teased like Natalie Portman. She's kind of like Mighty Thor. She gets like would you want to see something like that for your character moving forward in Marvel? Would you love to sort of get in on the action?
I mean, I love working for Marvel. It's so fun, and I love this character. So, never say never to anything. Ever in life?
And maybe, I don't know if it happens in this scene or not, but I know she sort of meets in the comics. She meets up with Nightcrawler, I think in X-Men. There's some X-Men crossover. Is there anything in there, I don't know how much you've delved into the comics, that you would like to sort of explore as a character?
Again, I think it's always so fun when characters come in and you're like, oh, I didn't know they could be here. Oh, great. Okay, yeah, let's do that. So, it's always fun to sort of have these seemingly random mashups that turn into these great relationships or great scenes. And I just kind of follow Kevin on all of that, and follow the MCU and see where, all these surprising places it'll take. So,
Well, I loved What If, and I loved all the possibilities. This is my last question to you. The fact that we're delving into a multiverse story. You personally, if you could meet up with a version of yourself somewhere, what do you think you would be doing, or what would you like to see yourself doing, or what type of personality would you like to meet up with?
Oh gosh, wow. That's a big question. I guess I'd like to speak another language and be musical. So I'd like to meet myself as a Spanish concert pianist.
It's very I'm thinking of Eurovision now. I'm like,
or an Icelandic garage band player. Sure.
I see a Marvel Eurovision crossover in your future.
There we go.